Currently, many parts of our world are beset with many problems, from wars, conflicts and violence such as in Iraq, Syria, the Ukraines, Sudan, Central Africa. Problems that often have global repercussions and need to be tackled internationally. We are also facing other seriously global threats, such as climate change and the outbreak of diseases that threaten the planet if not dealt with as a global community. With all these global challenges, I wonder how the United Nations as an international body is coping to solve these problems.
Now you mentioned about the conflicts of various places in Iraq and the threat of ISIS in the Ukraine and in Africa and also in Sudan. But all of these conflicts, they seem to dominate our media at the moment. And as a global body, can the UN resolve these conflicts?
We are living in an era of a multiple crises. We have seen this tragic situation in Syria during the last 4 years. We are now seeing this extremism and terrorism rampant in Iraq. These are the results of a lack of mutual respect, reconciliation, lack of inclusiveness by the leaders. The United Nations, in dealing with this, has been deploying various kind of tools and means. Most important and viable means that resolving all these issues through dialogue, through peaceful means, through mediation. Also, preventive diplomacy is very much important. Before anything just breaks out, we need to address, whenever we see the symptoms of problems, address the root causes. This has been the main positions of the United Nations.
We're looking at the increasing number of the humanitarian crisis. How effective do you think the work of the UN has been so far?
We are very much grateful to many countries who have been rendering such generous humanitarian assistance. At the same time, with all these crises happening, generating so many people displaced and refugees, we are concerned about some donor fatigue and lack of resources. The United Nations is overstretched in terms of delivering humanitarian assistance. Look at the case in Syria. During the last 4 years, we have seen more than 3 million refugees in this place. They have been displaced internally. Then the crisis in Iraq have created again 1.2 million people displaced. South Sudan, again, half of the population, 2.5 million people, have been displaced. In Central African Republic, in Mali, and even though there is not such a crisis, in Ukraine we have also seen many 100,000 people displaced who need urgent humanitarian assistance. All these have created some strain on the part of the international community. Of course, the United Nations is trying to mobilize as much resources as possible. For example, last week in Iraq, UNHCR, High Commissioner for Refugees, has mobilized the biggest and the massive humanitarian operation in a decade through land, sea, and air, trying to provide the humanitarian assistance to the people trapped in Mountain Sinjar. There are many crises happening on top of this, like Ebola.
Yes,
Ebola outbreak.
Another global disease.
This is another crisis which may affect not only humanitarian crisis, but the social, economic, and political and security situation. This has become much bigger one, much urgent and imminent crisis, which international community should address. The first report came in March, 5 months ago, and we have been really trying to mobilize this one. At this time, what I'm appealing to the leaders in the region, particularly 4 countries affected, the Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, and Nigeria, that they should first of all dispel the fear and the psychological impact felt by the people. This disease is not airborne. This disease is affecting other people only through bodily contact, bodily fluid and blood. Therefore, there is no such fear as now being felt by the people in the community. And therefore, international borders and air and land route should be open rather than closing it.
Especially these countries are already poor countries to begin with. And the other thing that has not sort of moved in the way that we hoped it had since we had the conference in Bali on climate change. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the discussion on climate change? Are we getting somewhere? Because this is a global, and it's no longer a threat, it's a reality. We are living the impact of these climate changes.
In Bali in 2007, the people of Indonesia have set a very important roadmap called the Bali Roadmap. On the basis of this, international community has been building upon their commitment and their roadmap. And we have to have universally, legally binding climate change agreement by December next year in Paris. That's our roadmap now. The climate change has been impacting all the countries, regardless of where you are coming from, whether developing or developed world. So there is no exception at this time. And the scientists have made it plainly clear that climate change is happening and approaching much faster than one may think. Therefore, there is no time to lose. We have to take bold action to contain the global temperature rise within 2 degrees Celsius. That is imperative for us to do. Indonesia is one of the big forestry country, but I'm also concerned that there is a serious issue of deforestation.
Yes, we're one of the largest producers of carbon.
That's right. And in 2011, I visited the central Kalimantan area, and we established a small UN climate change office addressing these deforestation issues. And I have seen for myself the impact of deforestation. I met the indigenous people who were living on, logging and the trees, and I really strongly appeal to them that they should find an alternate way of livelihood with the help of a government.